My wife cheated, lied about our son's paternity, and betrayed me for years, so I made her pay. Up until that day, I always thought my life was predictable and well organized, my routine, my marriage, my job. Everything seemed to fall into place, as it should. My wife Janice and I had settled into a comfortable rhythm of married life, with our 2 young sons. Despite the usual ups and downs of parenting and work, I believed we had the kind of marriage most people envied, one built on trust, love, and understanding. Standing there appeared to be no major cracks in the foundation, or so I thought, but as the saying goes, life has a way of surprising you. When you least expect it, that cool autumn afternoon marked the start of my unraveling sense of security. I had come home feeling under the weather, unaware that it was the least of my worries. As I lay on the couch, tired and worn out, I overheard a conversation that would change the course of my life. Janice and her sister Carla unknowingly shattered the illusion of my perfect world, revealing secrets hidden in plain sight. What followed was a series of revelations no amount of love or effort could fix. It all came out by chance, as these things often do. I had just gotten home from work, feeling unwell, and collapsed onto the couch, eyes closed. I parked in the garage, and since it was chilly, made sure to close the door. My wife, unaware I was home, pulled into the driveway and left her car outside. She and Carla entered through the front door and headed to the kitchen. The couch I was lying on faced away from them, so they didn't see me. I nearly got up to tell them I was home, but a wave of nausea kept me down, so I lay there, listening to their conversation, without meaning to. I gathered that my wife had come home to show Carla a new dress she bought for their annual Chicago trip for the past 4 years. The 2 of them had gone from our Indianapolis home to the Windy City for a weekend of shows and art exhibits while they were away. Bob, Carla's husband, and I would watch the kids. We figured the women deserved a break from their responsibilities. By the way, my wife is Janice. And I'm Jim. We have 2 kids, Ryan, 5, and Sean, 2. We'd been married for 7 years, and I was a middle manager at a large logistics company. We lived comfortably on my salary. Janice is very attractive, and after 2 kids, she's kept in shape. We have sex often, and enjoy each other. I thought we were the perfect couple, with a perfect marriage. Carla and Bob live a few blocks away, and we do most things together, as families and friends. Carla is like a younger version of my wife, and the 2 are nearly inseparable. They have a daughter, Melissa, 3. As I lay there, waiting for my nausea to pass, I overheard Carla admiring the dress my wife was showing her. "Wow, that's a sexy dress. Has Jim seen it? Does he know you're taking it on the trip?" Carla asked. "No, if he saw it, he'd get suspicious. So don't say anything." "Okay. Randy's going to love it," Janice replied. "Who the hell is Randy?" I wondered. My nausea was gone, but I stayed still, wanting to hear more. "Are you bringing something for Mark?" Janice asked. "Who the hell is Mark?" I thought. Growing more confused, Carla responded. "I've got some special lingerie I've hidden from Bob. That'll really turn him on." "I have some special lingerie too," Janice said. "Jim hasn't seen it either. It'll really drive Randy wild." Good God, I thought. They must be having affairs, and it sounds like they know these guys pretty well. I was shocked and stunned by what I was hearing. Who were these men, and how long had this been going on? My mind was spinning from everything I'd overheard. Then Janice said, "Are you going back on birth control this year?" "Yes. I only wanted 1 child, with Randy. It's lucky he and Jim look so much alike. Even Jim's mother says Sean is the spitting image of him." Carla responded. Oh my God. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, and the nausea struck me like a freight train. I fought to keep my stomach from turning. I wanted to vomit so badly that I could feel the bile rising in my throat. Thankfully, they chose that moment to leave, so Carla could drop Janice off at home. As soon as they closed the front door, I bolted from the sofa and rushed to the downstairs bathroom. I barely made it in time, throwing up into the toilet, just as the puke hit my mouth. Thank God the lid was up. I felt like I threw up everything inside me, and even after that, I still had dry heaves. Quickly, I sprayed some air freshener in the bathroom, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the garage. I got in the car, opened the garage door, and sped down the street, closing the door behind me. I drove to a nearby mall parking lot and sat in the car, trying to figure out what to do next. I thought about calling my brother-in-law, Bob, and telling him what I'd overheard, but I was still in denial, that Janice could be unfaithful and that Sean might not be my son. I felt sick. But as I thought more about her affair with some guy named Randy, my anger started to grow. What the hell was I going to tell Bob about Carla and Mark? I needed legal advice immediately to figure out my options. If this turned into a divorce, the women were leaving for their trip in 4 days, and I had a lot to figure out. Before then, I pulled out my cell phone and called my friend, golfing buddy, high school friend, and lawyer, Jerry Matthews. His secretary, Helen, answered, and I asked if I could see Jerry as soon as possible. Helen knew me well, and she could hear in my voice that something was wrong. She asked, "Can you be here in 15 minutes?" I told her I could, and drove over quickly. When I walked into Jerry's office, Helen took one look at me and said, "Jim, you look terrible. I've had some bad news, Helen, and I think I'm coming down with something." "Is Jerry free now?" I asked. "Yes, go right in," she said, clearly worried as she looked at me. I hurried past her, knocked once, and entered Jerry's office. He stood up as I came in and motioned me to a chair in front of his desk. "Good God, Jim, what's going on? You look awful," Jerry said. "Jerry, I've been struck with 2 blows today. One I might recover from, but the other, I'm not sure I can." "Tell me about it," he said, sitting down. "First, I think I'm coming down with something, and second, I think I have a serious problem with Janice. I need some advice." "Well, the first issue shouldn't be a problem, since I've had my flu shot. As for Janice, that's hard to believe. I've known both of you since you got married, and you've always seemed like the perfect couple. What's going on?" Jerry asked. I told Jerry what I'd overheard earlier that afternoon, and he looked shocked. "I can't believe Janice or Carla would do something like this. And if Janice deliberately had a child with another man, that's unbelievable. So what do you want to do? Are you thinking of divorce? Or do you think you can get past her infidelity and the child issue?" "I don't think I can forgive her right now." "You know I don't handle divorces," Jerry said, "but I can refer you to a good divorce attorney who can guide you through this. If that's what you want, you'll need more proof than just what you've overheard, especially about Sean's paternity." "Do you want me to call him and set up a meeting?" "Yes, please," I said, feeling a wave of emotion overcome me. Tears welled up, and before I knew it, I was sobbing as the weight of what I was about to do hit me. Jerry looked at me sympathetically and buzzed Helen. "Helen, can you get Sam Ridley on the phone?" "Oh God, no," I heard Helen say quietly, but she quickly connected Jerry to Sam. "Sam, hey, it's Jerry. Do you have time tomorrow morning to talk with a good friend of mine about a situation he's dealing with?" There was a brief pause while Jerry listened. "How does 9 a.m. tomorrow sound? In Sam's office. He's in the same building. It's a bit late to do it today." "That works," I nodded. Jerry leaned back in his chair and gave me one last piece of advice. "I suggest you go home now and try not to let Janice know anything's wrong. This might not be what it seems, and you could do irreparable damage if you react too quickly." "You're right," I sighed. "I've got to keep it together until I'm sure. Thanks for your help, Jerry." We stood, and he shook my hand. "I'm really sorry about this, Jim. You and Janice have always been 2 of my closest friends. Your pain is my pain. Thanks again, Jerry. I'll keep you updated on what happens." On my way out, Helen looked at me with teary eyes. "I'm so sorry, Jim." "Thanks, Helen." When I got home that evening, it was around my usual time from work. So Janice didn't suspect anything out of the ordinary, but she immediately noticed my appearance. "Jim, honey, you look awful. Are you feeling okay?" she asked. I clenched my teeth. I wanted to laugh, to make her feel the pain I was in, knowing what I now knew. But instead, I forced a smile and said, "I think I'm coming down with something." Then, with a hint of malice, I added, "I hope I feel better in a few days, so you can still go on your trip." For a moment, I saw her falter, but she quickly brushed it off. "Oh, it's probably just a touch of the flu. You should be fine by Friday." "I hope so. Right now, I just want to lie down." "Can I skip dinner tonight and eat later?" I asked, eager to avoid more conversation. "Of course, honey. Go change and rest." "Why didn't you come home earlier?" she asked. I tried, but there was too much going on at work. I lied. "Take some aspirin, and I'll check on you in a bit." The kids enjoyed their day at daycare, and Carla and I went shopping as usual. I saw the cutest pair of sandals, but they didn't have my size, so I didn't buy anything. I felt numb, overwhelmed with sickness and grief. I trudged upstairs to our bedroom, avoiding the kids in the family room. I especially couldn't look at Sean yet. Oh God, what if he wasn't my son? What would I do? I remembered, before Jan's trip 3 years ago, she hadn't let us have sex, the week before or after, claiming she had an infection. Had she purposely slept with Randy, to conceive his child? The thought of her betrayal was almost too much to bear. I didn't wake up until the next morning. I felt a bit better physically, like it might have been just a 24-hour flu, but the moment I recalled what I'd overheard, the depression returned. I glanced at Janice, peacefully sleeping next to me. Her face so innocent, it was hard to picture her with another man, but I had to face that possibility. I got up, took a shower, and dressed for work. I grabbed a cup of coffee, and left the house. Before Janice came downstairs, I could hear her upstairs with the kids, but I still couldn't face them. I had breakfast at Denny's, and got to work early, trying to focus on my job. Around 8:30, I told my boss I needed to take a couple of hours of personal time. He gave me a nod, and asked, "How are you feeling? You didn't look great when you left early yesterday." "I'll be fine. It's going to take some time to recover," I said, though my mind was on Janice, not the flu. At 9 a.m., I was at Sam Ridley's office. His secretary showed me in, and closed the door behind her. Sam's office had a cozy seating area, with comfortable chairs around a low table. After greeting me, he waved me to one of the chairs, and sat across from me. "In this line of work," he said, "I find this setup helps my clients feel more at ease. Divorce is emotional and personal. I've got decaf coffee here, if you want some. Why don't you start by telling me what's going on? And we'll go from there." I poured myself a cup of coffee, and began explaining everything to Sam. When I finished, he paused for a moment, and then asked, "Do you love your wife?" I thought I did. I thought I loved her more than anything. But now, thinking about what she may have done, I feel cold and empty inside. It's like she's become someone I don't even know, a stranger. I keep wishing this was all just a nightmare, and that I'd wake up, and everything would be fine. But I have to consider the kids. They're my biggest concern. Sam nodded thoughtfully. "Well, we need to confirm if she's committing infidelity. If what you overheard is true, you'll have to decide whether you want a divorce. We'll need to hire an investigator to follow her in Chicago this weekend. It could get expensive, so you might want to involve your brother-in-law to share the cost. If both of them are cheating, we can deal with both situations at once." "Yeah, that makes sense," I said, agreeing with him. Next, Sam continued, "We need to arrange DNA tests to confirm the paternity of your kids. I suggest your brother-in-law does the same, but you can talk to him about it. We should schedule another meeting with him present." I shook my head. I don't want to involve Bob until after they've gone on their trip. Right now, I'm struggling to act normally around Janice, and I can use the flu as an excuse. But if I tell Bob now, and he acts differently around Carla, they might catch on. "That's smart," Sam acknowledged. "Can you give me Janice's itinerary, so I can pass it to the investigator? It would help to have the hotel name and room number. If she has one booked, they usually reserve the same room each year," I replied. "I'll get that for you, along with any other details." "Do they fly or drive?" Sam asked. "They fly, and use taxis or shuttles," I answered. "That'll make it easier to keep track of them," Sam said. "Now, you need to secure your finances. Do you know what I mean by that?" "I think so," I said, cautiously. "Protect your assets," Sam explained. "Assume for now that what you heard is true. If your wife has access to joint accounts, credit cards, etc., think about changing the beneficiaries on your insurance policies to your kids. Sometimes when a spouse senses a breakup, they drain the accounts. You can always change things back. If it turns out there's no issue, be as generous as you like with a joint checking account, so she can manage, but secure the rest. You should also give your brother-in-law a heads up when we negotiate the divorce. We can aim for a fair split of the assets." "Got it. I'll start working on that today," I said, determined. "I hope this turns out to be nothing, Jim, but if it's true, you should be able to get custody of your older son without any trouble," Sam reassured me. "Thanks, Sam. I'll get you that itinerary by tomorrow," I promised. After leaving Sam's office, I headed straight to the bank. I closed all our joint savings and CD accounts, transferring the money into a new account, in my name only. I left $1,000 in our joint checking account, and moved the rest into my personal savings. Next, I contacted my stockbroker, and transferred our investments into my own account. He seemed a little worried about what it might mean, but I didn't explain. I considered canceling our credit cards, but worried that if any charges were declined, while they were in Chicago, it would raise suspicion, so I decided to hold off until I had more information from the investigator. Back at the office, I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept wandering. I couldn't bring myself to eat lunch. I wasn't sure if it was lingering effects from the flu, or the constant images of Janice with another man, that made me lose my appetite. My stress and anger kept rising, but I knew I had to stay calm. When I got home that evening, Janice seemed genuinely concerned. "Why didn't you stay home today? You shouldn't have gone to work," she said. "I didn't want to risk you or the kids getting sick. If you caught it, you might not be able to go. Your trip with Carla this weekend," I replied, watching her reaction closely. "You could be right. Maybe you should sleep in the spare room until you feel better." The thought that crossed my mind was unbearable. She was ensuring her weekend with her lover wouldn't be interrupted. I realized it was going to be tough to keep her from suspecting that I knew anything. Over the next few days, I kept up the act of being sick, navigating dinners and conversations. While pretending to be unwell, I checked her AOL email account, but discovered she had changed the password. After some guesswork, I figured it out. It was Sean's name and birth date. Once inside, I found a series of emails from someone with a username R&M. I copied them into a file to print later. Reading through a few, confirmed my worst fears. Proof of her affair. They had been planning for the weekend, and it seemed they used the phone while I was at work. Most of the arrangements were already made, so I didn't expect to learn much more from the emails, but they provided enough written evidence. Now I just had to wait. The next day, I faxed a copy of Janice's itinerary to Sam, and tried to function normally at work. It wasn't easy. My boss and secretary could tell something was wrong, but didn't push me. I printed off the emails from R&M and mailed them to Sam. I learned that this affair had been going on for 4 years. During their annual trip, Randy and Mark booked one room, while Janice and Carla booked the adjoining room, so they could each share a space with their respective lover. They reserved the same rooms every year. Randy and Mark, it turned out, were married and lived in Milwaukee. They used the Chicago boat show as their excuse for the trip, leaving their wives to watch the kids at home. Friday arrived, and Janice and Carla were set to leave for the airport around noon. When I came downstairs, Janice had made coffee. "I wanted to make you a good breakfast before I left," she said, cooking bacon and eggs, which was unusual, since I usually just had cereal. "I'm worried about you. You haven't been eating well all week. That flu must really be holding on. I'm sorry we haven't been physically engaged this week, and I appreciate you trying to keep us from getting sick. When I get back Sunday, you should feel better, and I'll show my appreciation then." "Thanks, Jan. I'm looking forward to it," I said, forcing a smile, and giving her a quick kiss on the cheek. She seemed satisfied with the gesture. "Don't forget to be home by noon today. You'll need to start watching the kids, so we can get to the airport on time," she reminded me. "I haven't forgotten," I replied, my voice slipping into a low growl, as I fought to keep my composure. The thought of what she might be planning for the weekend was eating away at me. She looked at me, concerned. "What's wrong, Jim? Are you mad at me for something?" No, I quickly said, trying to sound casual. "Just clearing my throat. Must be some phlegm." I forced a smile, hoping it would pass as genuine. She gave me a strange look, but didn't press the issue, and went back to chatting. After breakfast, I grabbed my suit jacket and briefcase, heading towards the garage. "Aren't you going to kiss me goodbye?" she asked, watching me with curiosity. Realizing I needed to put in more effort, or she might get suspicious, I dropped my briefcase, turned around, and took her in my arms, kissing her on the lips. My stomach twisted with nausea, but I forced it down, trying to convey affection. It must have worked, because when I pulled away, she said, "Wow, honey, maybe you should stay home this morning, and we can have our Sunday sex today." I forced a laugh, and said, "I'd like to, but if I'm going to take half the day off, I need to get some work done first." I kissed her cheek, picked up my briefcase, and headed to the garage. She was smiling as I left, and I hoped I had erased any suspicion if she wanted to play the loving wife. I could keep up the role of devoted husband a little longer. I got home by noon, as promised, and Janice had lunch waiting for me. We ate together and chatted, while she gathered her bags by the door. I forced myself to remain calm and cheerful, even though inside I was boiling with anger and frustration. "Well, I hope you girls are going to behave yourselves," I said, trying to sound as lighthearted as possible. "We always do, honey," she replied, with a smirk, "but there are always some cute guys to look at." as long as it's just looking," I added, more seriously. "Because if you ever decided to play around, it would destroy me. I don't think I could handle it, and I know our marriage wouldn't survive." She looked startled for a moment, but then smiled. "You know I've always been faithful to you, Jim, and that won't ever change, I know. But you're a beautiful woman, and I'm sure you get hit on sometimes, and I understand that a stay-at-home mom might get bored." Her face went pale, but before she could respond, Carla honked outside, signaling her arrival. Janice gave me a quick kiss, and turned away, as I picked up her bags and followed her to the car. I thought I saw a tear in her eye. A few minutes later, I stood on the driveway, watching as their car disappeared down the street. We waved goodbye. Maybe for the last time. After feeding the kids lunch, I called Bob and told him I'd be stopping by. For a minute, he sounded surprised, but said he'd be home. So I packed up the kids and drove over. I had copies of Janice's emails with me. When I arrived, Bob was finishing feeding Melissa, and greeted us with a smile as we walked in. "Hey, guys, let's head into the family room and watch a video with the kids. I'm not staying long." "Bob, we need to talk. Let the kids go play," I said. He looked puzzled, but did as I asked, sending the kids into the family room. "What's going on, and what do you have there?" he asked, pointing to the packet in my hands. "These are for you to read," I told him, as we lose to the kitchen table. "But first, I need to tell you something really bad, so try to stay calm." "What's wrong? Are you dying or something?" "No, but I wish it were that simple. This could be the end of our marriages." Bob went pale, and sat in silence, as I told him about the conversation I overheard between Janice and Carla a few days ago. Then I handed him the emails to read. "Oh my God, he kept muttering, as he read through them. His devastation was clear. He loved Carla as much as I loved Janice. When he finished, he put his head on the table, and cried. After a while, he calmed down, and I told him about Sam, the investigator in Chicago, and what I had done with my finances. I mentioned my plan to visit a clinic for DNA tests to determine the paternity of my kids, and asked if he wanted to come with me. The thought that Melissa might not be his daughter hadn't even crossed his mind until then. His eyes widened in shock, and he suddenly bolted for the bathroom. I could hear him vomiting, the dry heaves eerily familiar from my own reaction a few days earlier. When he returned, pale and shaken, he agreed to come with us. We gathered the kids and drove to the clinic. The staff was professional and quick, taking saliva swabs from all of us. I also asked for a blood test to record our blood types. They said the results would be faxed by Wednesday. After leaving the clinic, we stopped by Bob's bank, where he made changes to his accounts. He decided to contact his broker and insurance agent from home. On the way back, I asked if he wanted to stay at my house for the weekend, suggesting he shouldn't be alone. After some thought, he agreed, but wanted to stop by his house to pick up a few things. That evening, we sat in the kitchen after putting the kids to bed, talking about what we were going to do. Now that we knew our wives' betrayal had been going on for 4 years, we agreed to wait until the investigators' report and the DNA results came in before making any decisions. We also realized we would have to act as if everything was normal. When our wives returned, we'd have to pretend to be the loving husbands and even sleep with them, all while waiting for the truth to unfold. Bob mentioned that his doctor had given him some Viagra samples for a previous issue, and he thought they might help him get through the weekend. I told him I'd pick up a couple of doses when I dropped him off at his house on Sunday. The weekend passed in silence, with our wives none the wiser. Each night, Jan and Carla called, and we acted happy to hear from them. They seemed pleased that Bob and I were spending the weekend together. With the kids, Jan even suggested we do it again next year. I thought bitterly, yeah, if there even is a next year. On Sunday afternoon, before they returned home, I dropped Bob and Melissa back at their house. I picked up a few doses of the Viagra and headed back to my place. Preparing to confront Janice, around 4 p.m., I heard a honk outside. Janice was home. I went out to help her with her luggage, and she was all smiles, seemingly happy to see me. I thought, if she can act happy, so can I. So I played the part of the loving husband. Despite the anger churning inside me, knowing what she had done, the kids were thrilled to see their mom, and she spent time with them. While I unpacked her bags, I found her dirty laundry, mostly lingerie, and held my breath as I checked 2 pairs of underwear for any signs of semen. There was nothing conclusive, but I couldn't relax. If she had removed them before sex and hadn't put them back on, there wouldn't necessarily be any signs. I sighed and rejoined my family. That evening, we went out for a family dinner. Later, after the kids were in bed, Janice took my hand and led me upstairs. "Why don't you get undressed?" she asked, with a smile, her eyes bright. She went into the bathroom to freshen up, and when she returned, I pretended to be asleep. I couldn't bring myself to touch her. Knowing what I knew, instead, I lay there planning my next steps, and waiting for the investigator's report. The next morning at work, I got a call from Sam. The investigator had gotten both video and still shots of Janice with Randy and Carla with Mark. He would finish the report and have everything delivered to Sam's office by Wednesday. "Wednesday is going to be a day," Sam said. A wave of nausea hit me, but this time it wasn't from the flu. He then asked, "What's your plan going forward?" "We should meet with Bob to figure out the next steps." "I'll call Bob and set it up," I replied. After hanging up, I immediately called Bob at his office. I told him about the investigator's findings and Sam's request for a meeting. Bob started to break down, his voice trembling, as he quietly cried. It took a moment for him to pull himself together, and we agreed to meet with Sam on Thursday morning. After receiving the DNA results on Wednesday, we also agreed to stay calm and avoid raising suspicion with our wives. When I called Sam back, we set the meeting for Thursday. At 9 a.m. that evening at home, Janice didn't mention anything about sex, which was a relief. I still couldn't bring myself to touch her, though I kept up the act of being normal. Every interaction twisted my stomach, knowing what I had seen and what I was about to uncover. Thursday morning came quickly. Bob and I met at Sam's office, both looking like we hadn't slept in days. Sam had everything ready, including a TV near his desk. After greeting us, he gestured to the TV. "I've got the footage queued up. We can watch it with or without sound." "Your choice." We decided to watch without sound first. Sam turned on the TV, and the image came to life. The camera angle was from above, likely hidden near the ceiling. An undressed man I didn't recognize appeared first, and lay down on the bed. My stomach clenched. As the scene unfolded, moments later, a woman in a short black nightie walked into view, straddling the man's legs. It was Janice. I jumped up from my chair and ran to the bathroom, vomiting violently. It felt like my insides were being ripped apart. When I returned, Sam had paused the footage. Janice was wearing the same nightie she'd worn during our last sex session, the previous Sunday. I nodded for him to continue. Janice was now on her back, with a man on top of her, in the missionary position. Sam turned on the sound, and we heard their labored breathing. "I'm so glad we do this once a year, Randy," Janice said, between gasps. "If I didn't have this, I'd go stir crazy at home. I love my husband, but he wouldn't respect me if I did with him what I do with you." Randy's voice responded, equally breathless. "I feel the same way, Jan." Sam quickly turned off the sound, sparing us more of their talk. The footage played for a few more minutes, until they climaxed. Then Sam switched to the second video, which showed Carla and Mark in a similar encounter. When it was over, Sam turned off the TV and looked at us. "What do you want to do, gentlemen? Do you want to proceed with divorce?" Bob and I sat in stunned silence for a few moments before I finally spoke. "Sam, we've discussed this, and we want to move forward with the divorce papers, but hold off serving them until we tell you. We also want the full names and addresses of Randy and Mark. We plan to send their wives copies of the report and the videos." "Understood." Sam nodded. The investigator included their names and addresses in his report. "I'll give you copies before you leave, along with the video footage." "What about your children's paternity?" Bob and I handed him the DNA results we had picked up that morning. "Sean isn't my son," I said. "Sadly, but I'd like to adopt him. I've raised him, and I can't imagine life without him." "You'd need the biological father's consent for that," Sam explained. "But if you file a paternity suit and push for child support, he might sign away his rights to avoid paying." "That's what I'm thinking," I agreed. "Can we also sue for alienation of affection?" "Absolutely. That could give you leverage. Do you want to proceed with both the paternity suit and the alienation of affection claim?" "Yes," I replied, without hesitation. Sam then asked, "Have you confronted your wives yet?" "No," I said. "We're planning to do that tonight, during dinner." "All right. Here are copies of the report and the video. I'll start the paperwork," Sam said, handing us the materials. "I'm sorry it's come to this, but we'll get through it." After leaving Sam's office, Bob and I headed to an audio-video store to make extra copies of the video. While there, I bought a wiretap recorder I planned to set up at home over the weekend. Then we went to Kinko's to print extra copies of the report. Once we had everything, we bought large shipping envelopes, addressed them to the wives of Randy and Mark, and sent them express mail to their homes in Milwaukee. Inside, we included a brief handwritten note, explaining who we were and how they could contact us or Sam, if needed. Later that day at work, I told my boss I was taking a few days off, for personal reasons. He agreed, and I made sure my staff knew how to reach me. I called the credit card companies to cancel our joint accounts and opened a new card, in my name only. I also canceled Janice's cell phone. Checking her email from my office, I found a message she had sent to Randy on Monday morning, telling him she had made it home safely and was looking forward to next year. Randy hadn't replied yet. The rest of the day, I spent uploading parts of the video and images from the report onto my computer, creating a secure website to document the infidelity. I included details about dates, times, and places, along with the DNA test results. With everything in place, I left work, knowing the confrontation was just hours away. When I got home that evening, Bob, Carla, and Melissa were already at the house. After we made drinks, Bob and I sat in the family room, while the women and kids were in the kitchen, preparing dinner. Is everything ready? Bob asked. I just need to load the video into the DVD player, I said. I pulled one of the copies from my briefcase and loaded it, preparing for what was about to happen. After dinner, we sent the kids into the bedroom to watch cartoons and gathered in the family room. I've got a video I want to show everyone, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Janice and Carla looked at me expectantly, but confused. This isn't something dirty, is it? Janice asked, suspicious. You promised me you wouldn't bring any X-rated stuff into the house. It's family related, I replied. Educational. It shows how a family can be destroyed. She nodded, but remained skeptical. The video began with a shot of the bed in the middle of the room. A moment later, Randy appeared, undressed, climbing onto the bed. At first, Janice didn't recognize him. But when she did, she exploded. You said this wasn't X-rated. I told you it's educational, I said, calmly. Then Janice appeared on screen, climbing onto the bed, and straddling Randy. Oh my god. Oh my god, Janice screamed. How did you get these? Her face turned pale. As we watched her bring Randy to climax, both she and Carla started wailing, crying uncontrollably. Turn it off. Turn it off. Carla screamed. Don't worry, Carla, Bob said, coldly. We've got a video of you too. They were both in shock, crying and sobbing. The kids came running to see what was wrong, but we sent them back to the bedroom before they saw anything. Finally, Janice managed to gasp. Please turn it off, Jim. Please, we need to talk. I turned it off, leaving them sobbing in shame, covering their faces. Tell us why you did this, I said, still calm. We trusted you, and you betrayed us. How do you plan to earn our trust back? You broke your wedding vows. I don't want to hear I'm sorry, or I can explain, because nothing you say will take away the pain you've caused us. We just want to know how you plan to regain our trust, or our marriages are over, and we'll divorce. With these videos, we'll get custody of the kids, and you'll get little from us financially. If you think this marriage is worth saving, tell us how you'll win back our trust. I don't know. I don't know. Janice cried, looking at me desperately. You're my love. I thought it was just a harmless fling. Once a year. I didn't think anyone would get hurt. I'm your love, I responded. Would someone who loves her husband deliberately go out and get pregnant by another man? Explain that, my love. Oh God, Janice sobbed, her cries becoming uncontrollable. Carla, still crying, looked at her sister with compassion. Bob stepped in. You should take Carla and Melissa home and work on your own plan to fix your marriage. Jim and I have a lot more to work through. Janice stayed huddled on the sofa, crying in deep distress. As I saw Bob and his family to the door, Carla turned her tear-streaked face away, her makeup smeared. I didn't acknowledge her as I hugged Bob before parting. I returned to the family room and told the kids to go back to their bedroom. They were concerned something was wrong, so I decided to take them to my parents' house for the night. They were excited. Grandparents always spoiled them, and they loved it. I went back into the family room and told Janice, I'm taking the kids to my folks. I'll be back in half an hour. You have that time to figure out how you'll atone for your infidelity, and whether you think this marriage and access to the kids is worth saving. The only reason I'm considering letting you stay is because of the kids. I still haven't decided what to do about Sean. He's my son as far as I'm concerned. As of now, I'll decide if I want a divorce. If you argue, I'll make the video, DNA results, and investigators report public, including to your family, friends, and the church. You won't have a life left in this community. Think about it. She didn't acknowledge me, but kept sobbing. I bundled up the kids, with their pajamas and toothbrushes, and drove to my parents' house, about 15 minutes away. My dad was surprised to see us, but when I told him Jan and I wanted a little privacy, he winked and said, "We understand, son. Take as long as you need. You don't look too good, though." "I'll be fine, Dad." When I got back home, the house was quiet. She wasn't in the family room, so I headed to our bedroom, and found her moving her personal belongings to the guest room. I looked at her, said, "Well." She looked terrible, but kept crying. "This marriage, you, and my kids, mean more to me than anything. I won't say sorry, or try to explain, because you asked me not to. Why I let myself get pregnant by him, I don't even know. I'll stay if you let me. I realize I have to move out of our bed, until you want me back. I won't withhold myself from you. You can have me anytime you want. I know you might sleep with someone else, to get back at me, and I can't stop you. It'll hurt, but I'll take it. I'll do whatever you ask, agree to any conditions, just to stay with you and the kids. If we divorce, it'll destroy me. Thank you for even giving me a chance to redeem myself." That's quite a speech. "Jan, now listen, you may not understand the conditions I'll need for you to stay. You might decide you want to leave. I want revenge so badly. I can taste it. I've been in torment for 10 days. But your torment might last years. Have you considered that?" "I have. Jim, I'll give you my conditions tomorrow," I said, then went downstairs. Later, in bed, I could hear her sobbing, in the guest room all night. Part of me wanted to comfort her, but remembering what she'd done, made me too angry. She would have to atone. The next morning, I woke up early, showered, and dressed casually. It was Saturday, and we were expecting family over, but I wanted to write out the conditions for our new marriage. I sat in the kitchen, writing and crossing things out, until I had a final draft. By 10 a.m., I went upstairs to wake her. "Jan, get cleaned up, and meet me downstairs." I told her. She nodded, and I soon heard the shower running. In half an hour, she was sitting at the kitchen table. "I've thought about this carefully," I began. "I've tried not to let my desire for revenge make me do something I'll regret. I don't know if I still love you, but I hope you'll stay, and give me a chance to figure that out. I miss the wife I used to have." She gave me a weak smile. "Oh, Jim, I want to be your wife again, and move past all this. I know I have a lot to make up for." "Yes, you do. Here's what you'll need to do." I began reading the list of conditions. 1. You will never be alone with another man again, not even the pizza delivery guy, or the meter reader. 2. No more trips alone anywhere. If your mother is dying, and I can't go with you, or someone I trust can't go, then you don't go. 3. You will notify me every time you leave the house, where you're going, how long you'll be, and why. You'll also notify me when you're back. 4. You will not have any credit cards, or a cell phone. I've already canceled them. 5. You will make yourself available for sex, not love. 247. Nothing will be off limits. If you could do it for Randy, you can do it for me. Understand? "Yes, I understand," she replied, softly. "I always wanted to do more with you, but was afraid you'd lose respect for me." "Well, you've lost all my respect now. Was it worth it?" No, she sobbed, burying her face in her hands. 6. You will treat me with respect at all times. You will be a happy, obedient wife and mother. 7. You will report to me every time you communicate with a man, even if it's on the phone, in a chat room, or by email. I'll have ways to verify this, so be honest. 8. You will sign adoption papers, allowing me to adopt Sean, if I want to. 9. You will limit your communication with Carla to 1 hour a week. I don't know if she influenced you, or you influenced her, but Bob and I agree. You need to be kept apart. 10. You will receive a clothing allowance, but I will approve all new purchases. I won't have you using my money to buy sexy clothes for another lover. That's a sore point for me. And that's it. I looked up from the list, and asked, "Do you have any comments or issues with these conditions? Any breach will be punished accordingly." "None. I accept them. They're more lenient than what I would have given you if our roles were reversed." "Thank you," she responded. "You know you'll need to get Sean's biological father to sign off, too." I reminded her. "I know, and we're working on getting that signature," she replied, her voice steady. "You should also know that Randy and Carla's lover aren't getting off easy. We've sent the investigators' report and video to their wives. We'll also be suing them for alienation of affection. If Sean's father doesn't agree to the adoption, we'll sue him for child support. I'm sure he'll sign the papers to avoid that, and agree not to contact Sean until after his 21st birthday." Her eyes widened in shock. "Oh my God, you're going to destroy him?" she gasped. I looked at her coldly. So you still have feelings for him? No, she said, shaking her head. It's just, I didn't think about the consequences when I got involved with him and had his baby. She closed her eyes and let out a heavy sigh. It was just so easy. We never thought we'd get caught. I had a rough night after that conversation, constantly dreaming of Jan and Randy laughing at me while they had sex. I woke up furious, drenched in sweat. I must have made some noise, because Jan rushed into the room. Are you okay? She asked, her voice full of concern. Still caught in my rage, I snapped, yes, I'm fine, leave me alone. I'm sorry, she whispered, and backed out of the room. The next morning, I woke up early, showered, dressed, and knocked on Jan's door. We leave for church in 1 hour, I told her. And then went to get the kids ready. We all left on time, and attended the service as usual. Afterward, we went to IHOP for breakfast, keeping up with our weekend routine. Back home, I spent the afternoon watching football. Jan worked on a crossword, and the kids played. It felt normal, as if nothing had happened, but during halftime, I slipped into the garage, and installed a wiretap recorder. From now on, I'd have a way to monitor Jan. When I wasn't home, later, I received a phone call from Randy's wife. Jim, thank you for the package you sent. It was enlightening, and I'm using it in my divorce against him, she said, her voice calm but resolute. Is once-a-year infidelity really enough for a divorce? I asked, sarcastically. It hasn't been just once a year, she replied, her tone sharp. He's been cheating for years. Now I have proof to make him pay. Thank you. I paused for a moment before asking, can you do something for me? Of course, name it, she said, sounding willing to help. I need a DNA sample from Randy. I have a paternity issue I need to resolve. Whatever you need, I'll get it to you in a few days. Thanks again. Oh, by the way, Mark's wife is divorcing him, too, she added, casually. No, I hadn't heard that. Thanks for letting me know, I replied, surprised by the new piece of information. After we hung up, I found Jan in the family room, with the kids. She looked at me curiously, but didn't ask who had called. That was Randy's wife, I told her, watching her closely. She's divorcing him, and Mark's wife is divorcing him, too. Turns out your lovers were serial cheaters. The evidence I gave their wives, all the proof they needed to leave them. It's going to cost them dearly. They'll be paying for their mistakes for the rest of their lives. At that, Jan went pale and fled the room, sobbing. When she returned later, her face was still streaked with tears. I'm sorry for running off. It's not because I have feelings for him. It's the guilt. I ruined 2 marriages, maybe 3. I just stared at her. There was nothing more to say. Thus began a long and painful period of atonement. To monitor her more closely, I purchased an audio recorder that captured voice-activated signals from small transmitters I hid throughout the house. It wasn't perfect, but it allowed me to track her movements. Our days dragged on, and the toll it was taking on her became clear. She looked more worn and exhausted each day. It was wearing me down, too. My boss and secretary even suggested I see a doctor. Thinking I was still recovering from the flu, but I knew the truth. I was sick with anger and bitterness. Our love life had turned cold and mechanical. Sex was just sex, without love. Jan never complained, even when I was aggressive, sometimes almost cruel, as I took out my anger on her. She responded to me without protest, but there was no joy in it. Every evening, I checked the recordings, but there was never any sign. She was talking to someone she shouldn't. She followed all my rules, calling every time she left the house, and reporting when she returned. But the strain was obvious. It was affecting the kids, too. They were quiet and nervous, watching us as if they feared everything was about to fall apart. It broke my heart to see them like that. My need for revenge, my harsh rules, were destroying what I was trying to save. Finally, on a Sunday afternoon, while the kids were playing outside, I took Jan by the hand and led her to the family room. We need to talk, I said, pulling her down onto the sofa beside me. I handed her a manila envelope. She stared at it blankly for a moment, before breaking down in tears. I love you, Jan, but I can't keep doing this, I told her. I'm watching you fade more every day, and I realize I can't live like this anymore. The kids are suffering, too. I've thought a lot about my feelings over the past few days, and I've come to a hard realization. I don't love you anymore. I wanted to keep going for the kids' sake, but that's not enough. I can't forgive you. I can't get over what you did, and I especially can't get over that Sean isn't my son. She looked at me through her tears. Nodding slowly, I understand, she whispered. I love you, Jim, and I wanted to be with you again, but I understand. The next morning, Jan left the house. I explained to the kids, that mommy and daddy needed some time apart. It was hard to make them understand, but somehow we got through it. There was backlash from the extended family, especially on her side, but we kept moving forward. Randy ended up divorced, living in a small condo, paying his ex-wife for the rest of his life. Carla and Bob stayed together, but their marriage became loveless whenever I visited. The tension between them was palpable, like a bomb waiting to explode. After many discussions, Bob decided to give their marriage one more chance, agreeing to attend counseling with Carla. I wasn't sure it would help. As for me, counseling was never an option. I had already made my decision. I adopted Sean as my own. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth about not being his biological father to him. I had always been dad, and I wasn't about to break that bond. From the day he was born, I had been the only father he knew, and I wasn't going to take that away. 5 months later, our divorce was finalized. Jan didn't ask for anything in the settlement, and I didn't offer. The only thing I gave her was visitation rights with the kids. She started dating again, about a year later, and remarried 5 years after our divorce. I was invited to the wedding, but I didn't attend. I let the kids go, though. It was their mother's big day, and I didn't want to be in the way. As for me, I never remarried, or even dated again. My experience with Jan had been enough for a lifetime. I had no desire to face the possibility of more pain and betrayal. Some might call me a coward for staying single, but I saw it differently. I chose to focus on raising my kids, rather than risk another marriage, and the potential heartbreak that could follow. I made the decision to protect what mattered most to me. Years passed, and the pain eventually dulled. Though it never completely disappeared, I still thought about Jan occasionally, wondering how things might have been different if she had made other choices, or if I had been more forgiving. But those thoughts didn't stay long. I had made peace with my decisions, knowing there was no going back. Sean grew up without ever knowing the truth. He became a fine young man, and I couldn't have been prouder of him. He was my son in every way that counted. My daughter also thrived, despite everything. The kids stayed grounded. They didn't let the chaos of the past shape their futures. Both went on to live happy, successful lives, and that became my greatest accomplishment. Occasionally, I saw Jan at family events or gatherings for the kids. We were polite, even cordial. But there was always a distance between us that would never close. I didn't hate her anymore, but there was no love either. She'd moved on, and I had moved on in my own way. As the years passed, I realized that the true cost of infidelity isn't just the immediate pain. It's the long-term destruction it leaves behind. It's not just about broken trust or ruined marriages. It's the ripple effect on everyone involved. The children, the families, the friendships that suffer. That's the real tragedy. But in the end, life goes on. People heal, even if they never fully forget. Mistakes are made, and we all have to live with the consequences. That's what I learned from all of this. You can't change the past, but you can choose how to move forward. For me, moving forward meant dedicating myself to my kids, being the best father I could be, and never looking back at the wreckage behind us. I never remarried, but I didn't need to. My life was full with my children, their achievements, their growth, and the love they gave me in return. That was more than enough, and while I'd never tell them the full story, I hoped that someday they would understand how far I went to protect them and give them the stable life they deserved.